BlackRock's BUIDL fund has managed to reach a milestone. We're going to be talking about that and just how many billions are worth in their assets under management. We are also going to be talking about the potential deadline for the SEC and Ripple case and why it's taking so long. So you can see over here how the market is going so far on a Saturday. You can see that cake is up by 14%. And to be honest with you, we are pretty much seeing that bounce back. We're not seeing much of the red. Bitcoin is trading at $84,000, so really good. It's increased by $2,000 and much better than the 80k where it was before. So you'll see over here that the BUIDL or BIDL fund has now hit $1 billion in assets under management amid tokenized treasury sector boom. Now we already know that the CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink himself, actually came out with some videos last year of him talking about the fact that tokenization is going to be the next big thing that they'll be focusing on. And so again, you can just see how much that they have realized in terms of that. Also, it does say over here that the tokenized fund saw a 56.4% asset surge in 30 days. So over a half in just 1 month, crossing that $1 billion mark, and holders increased by nearly 20% to 61. Now Ethereum holds the lion's shares of 825 million that they do have. So what does this show, right? We've got one of the biggest asset managers getting into tokenization, but it's crossed that 1 billion mark. Of course, 1 billion, it may seem like a lot, but in general, I do think that this can increase over time. And of course, it will probably hit a lot larger if we can get to that 10 billion mark. It's just going to show how much we have seen with the attraction of the fund. So tokenized government securities have now surpassed $4.4 billion. We have Franklin Templeton's Franklin On-Chain US Government Money Fund reported a 16% increase in the total asset value in the last 30 days. And it's not really surprising right now that we are seeing all of this happening and coming into fruition. We also have over here the Ondo Finance's USDY, which is another major player. Its value actually shot up by 53% in the last 30 days, exceeding $592 million. And you'll see over here from the CEO himself that he has expressed support for the tokenization of bonds and stocks. And he noticed that its potential to democratize investing by making financial assets more accessible to a wide range of individuals, which makes sense, of course, when it comes to tokenization. But I do think that these are the big players in general. And so you'll see over here that the formation of a new crypto task force by the SEC and shifts in regulatory attitudes under the Trump administration have encouraged Coinbase to re-engage with tokenized securities. And so this is the reason as to why we are seeing this in the past couple of months. From Mr. Mann, we have this SEC versus Ripple XRP lawsuit. So of course the case is complicated. We know that it's very long. And again, we don't know how much the fine actually is. People are throwing out numbers. Some people are saying it could be as low as $25 million. Some people are saying $125 million. We don't really know the set number. The SEC hasn't given anything. We haven't concluded the investigation, and therefore it's still pretty much uncertain. Now, if Ripple pays the fine, the SEC has to decide how it closes the case, and that will obviously impact future regulations. And if they drop it without clarity, it could weaken their position in future enforcement actions, because of course, if they just drop it, then other people are going to start pointing fingers and saying, why did they drop it? Why did they potentially get away with this in that sort of sense? So Ripple, of course, wants complete clarity. The CEO himself has said that. Ripple have always said that in general. And if the SEC doesn't provide that, Ripple could push for a federal court ruling that forces a judge to decide XRP status once and for all. Now, if the federal court rules that XRP is not a security, it would set a legal precedent that could impact every other crypto project in the US banks. And this is a problem, right? This lawsuit, of course, it does affect Ripple in general. The company, it kind of does affect XRP, but it will also be affecting other crypto and tokens. It's going to affect the wider market, and this is the reason as to why once this lawsuit ends, we're going to see a massive jump in the crypto market, because we're going to basically get rid of the anchor of all of this happening in the crypto market and what's really putting people off and scaring a lot of people from investing money into it. We're definitely going to see more money coming in the future. I'm just going to show you a bit of this video so you can actually see the potential deadline and what we could be seeing in the future in general.
Probably their lawyers. So the SEC may reach a point where they issue what's called a Wells notice, laying out the theory of their enforcement case and giving that target an opportunity to argue why the SEC shouldn't initiate an actual enforcement suit against them. At this stage, the way forward is basically in the SEC's control. They get to largely decide the timing and the course forward. They hold the ball and gets to set what happens next. But if and when the time comes that the SEC decides to file a suit based on these alleged securities violations, the game shifts, the rules shift. They file in a U.S. federal court, and then the process becomes like any other civil suit in the U.S. federal court, which is subject to federal civil procedural rules and overseen by a federal judge. So the way forward on all these individual matters depends on where in that life cycle of an investigation and suit it was when the policy shifted. So for some cases that are still in the investigation phase, the SEC can decide to just drop the case entirely if it wants, or it could continue to invest resources into it. For example, the SEC may decide that investigations that are based on simple registration violations, meaning failure to register something under the securities laws, maybe those should be dropped. That kind of seems in line with their current policy that new regulations are needed about registration. But if the investigation includes an allegation of fraud or misconduct, then maybe they'll continue with the case, because that touches on the consumer protection part of their regulatory remit. It's a little more complex for cases that have already been filed in court, including registration violation matters in court. The SEC can't really just decide themselves to drop it without procedural formalities, right? So it could opt to seek to voluntarily dismiss some of these cases, and then there's court procedures to do that. But another possible outcome is that they'll reach some kind of settlement with the defendants, perhaps on terms less onerous than if this were under the previous administration. And these might be terms that the defendants are willing to agree to. So, for example, and this is just through public commentary by others, you might see settlements requiring new and stronger internal compliance programs, meaning we'll end this case, but you, the defendant, have to improve your compliance programs.
And of course, we do have a new administration coming in the SEC, and so we don't really know what they're doing. But again, the SEC was a mess under Gary Gensler, and so we should be able to have more clarity coming in from the SEC, and for them to actually do things the right way around, and not for them to be attacking. Current price of XRP coin, we are trading at $2.40, so we're doing pretty good today. $2.40, we're up by 1.73%. Really nice stuff, guys. On the 7-day chart, you'll see we are up by 2.65%. We took that massive dip, but we've now been able to slowly gain the momentum. The high that we actually went to of today was 245 at a volume of 4.5 billion. Actually, the volume is at 3.68 billion now. But again, it looks like as if we're getting towards that 250 mark. I do want to see though how we're going to be trading tomorrow, whether this is a little bit of a fake out or not. Again, we are pretty much in unstable and volatile times. So let's just make sure that we're able to stay up and above the $2 mark.